How to find and get through negative thoughts. A lot of the times we even sometimes struggle to figure out like what is actually preventing us from getting where we want to go. And once we do, what do we do with it? Some people also refer to negative thoughts as false programs or negative paradigms, but it's ultimately anything that prevents you from getting what you want. And what we mean by programs and paradigms is more of the subconscious layer. So your conscious mind is your willpower, your logical thinking, your analytical mind. And then underneath that is the subconscious. We're getting millions of data points every second. And your subconscious is trying to kind of parse all that together, create solutions. It's all your emotional faculties. And all of that put together feeds up to the conscious mind. But only so much can be fed at one time because our conscious mind is kind of more singular focused or task focused. For those in the computer science world, it's serial programming versus parallel programming. But the subconscious is able to process vast amounts of information. So there's a great saying, wherever your focus is, your energy flows. So if your focus is on finding that problem, your subconscious is going to go hard to work and find anything that supports that and feeds it out into the conscious mind. So we have to be aware, what are we programming our subconscious to do? Because the subconscious doesn't care what is true and false. It only says, you ask me this, I'm going to give you this. So you have to be very careful with what you feed your subconscious. So where are you? That's called the present state. We're trying to figure out all the dynamics of where you currently are. This is your beliefs, your structures, your things that are limiting you, the things that are going to help you. And then where are you going to go? These are your desired state. This is what does your future look like? And the better you can define that, the easier it is to get there. So the things that can kind of hold you back is think about where you are and where you want to go, and that thing in the middle is going to be what's kind of needing to be resolved or improved on. And these could be triggers. So if you have a gut reaction to something, an emotional reaction to something, something is probably happening right there. Have you ever tried to go on a diet, let's say, and somebody offers you a donut and you say, ooh, I want it, but I don't want it. It's tasty, but I want to do this. That is kind of in a conflict, right? Because you're trying to figure out which one. That also can mean you may have not made an actual decision. Decision is cutting off the path to all other places. If you already pre-decide things, you don't have to use willpower because it's just, you've already decided, right? I'm not eating donuts anymore. I'm losing weight, period. The end. And so when somebody offers you a donut, you're like, no, I'm good because I've decided I'm not doing it anymore. So through the old sense, the ancient Aramaic sense of the definition, cutting off all avenues other than the path forward, then we kind of tell our subconscious, this is what we want, and this is what we're going to do, and I don't need willpower anymore because the decision's already been made. If you've ever had procrastination or feeling that you're kind of off, or a disproportionate reaction to a given scenario, like somebody may say something, do something, hear something, see something, and then they're just like, boom. And that's because every time something happens, it stacks. It gets more and more intense unless it's dealt with. Because our body truly does want to get better. Our mind wants to eliminate these negative things, so it keeps coming back up. So it's trying to get your attention, basically. So every time it happens, it's getting a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. It's saying, hey, you can do something. Hey, you can do something. Hey, you can do something, until it slaps you so hard that you're like, okay, I must deal with this now. And when we put things off for too long, they can get pretty bad. So the faster we can recognize these scenarios, the more that we can heal them. So this kind of gets more now into the 6 basic needs of humans. So there's the hierarchy of needs, which is kind of your external self, food, water, shelter, stuff like that. And then there's the 6 basic needs of the inside: certainty, variety, significance, love, growth, and service. The first 4 are more kind of an everyday thing. So your certainty is the belief that something is going to happen. Variety is having more than one thing. Uh, Significance is feeling worth, having self-value. Love is a connection, whether it is a romantic love or a platonic love, but having that real close connection. It could be friends, family, spouse, significant other, but children. All of that stuff fits into that category. So having a good, connected life. And then growth and progress and service are kind of considered more into that spiritual category. It doesn't have to be religious, it's spiritual, kind of beyond self. And this is where happiness really does come from. Because if you're growing and having service, that gives you a sense of fulfillment. So a lot of really, really productive people have the certainty, the variety, and the significance through their achievements, but are still unhappy because they're not having that growth and that service. So you kind of have to balance all of them. And it's have you ever seen somebody do a violent thing? It's probably because of two things. They're lacking or focused on certainty and significance. Because if you're certain that that negative behavior towards somebody else is going to get their attention, and you'll have their undivided attention. So if somebody who lacks in those two categories is going to potentially turn to violence because they have a lack of the other ones and their desire is higher in those two. The cool thing is we can rebalance all of those. So if you're focused on love, growth, and service, you can get significance, variety, and certainty through those things. So it's kind of neat how we can rebalance all that stuff within our lives. And also note that your subconscious kind of has this kind of hierarchy within itself. First, on the base level, you have environment. You can move somebody around all day long, but if they carry around their beliefs and whatnot with them, the environment might not necessarily help, but it can certainly prevent something. Then you have your behavior. These are kind of your subconscious programming. This is what happens when you're not really thinking, you just kind of do it. Your capabilities and skills are more your mental faculties, right? I know how to woodwork or perform a task. So environment's pretty easy to change, right? You just move the physical person to somewhere else. Behavior, a little bit harder to change, but it's something that can be learned over time. Capabilities, skills can be taught pretty easily. And then you get into values, beliefs, identity, and beyond identity. These are really the true subconscious kind of areas. Your values and beliefs sometimes are kind of put together. It's the way the world works. So how you think all of it kind of fits together. Your values are what's important to you, and the beliefs are the rules. And the stronger your thought evidence combined with your emotional state, the stronger the belief, which is why things that are very emotional stick with a lot of people, be it positive or negative, because the stronger the emotion, kind of think if this is the thought, the emotion is the exponential component, right? If there's no emotion, the thought is just a thought. You can pick it up, you can move it around, you can toss it away, you can store it. But once you attach emotion, it has much more power to it. So you have to be careful where your emotional state is and what you're thinking. That's why traumatic events are so powerful, because the emotions are so rampant. And then identity is beliefs about yourself. It's the I am statements. I am good enough, or I'm not good enough. I'm confident, I'm not confident. It's all those things that are beliefs about how you are. And when we have negative identities, it can really limit us. Think about money, for example, which is a belief in the belief category. If money is evil, and you have a belief, I'm not evil or I'm good, you have a conflict, right? You can't have money if you believe you're good and money's evil, because having more money then would make you evil. Therefore, you're going to do things subconsciously to kind of self-sabotage you making more money. Same thing for promotion. I'm not good enough. So when promotion time comes around, you might, self-sabotage on a project or say something really stupid that might turn the boss against you. Or in a relationship, if you're feeling I'm not good enough, you might self-sabotage the relationship, doing something like cheating or saying something that would harm the relationship. And then there's beyond identity. This is the bigger than self. This is community or faith or any aspect that grows more than just you. Some people attach religion to this. Could also be communities, sports even, where you're part of a team. And those can really impact on a much grand level because now it's not just you, it's also other people. And so if you can identify where you're struggling within that pyramid, it's easier to change the whole structure because the higher up you can change it, the more powerful the change becomes. So here's kind of a quick way to kind of break a cycle, is these 4 questions. What would happen if you did X? So let's say the donut cat. So somebody offers you a donut, you have to make a decision. So what would happen if you did eat it? Well, if your goal is to try to lose weight, you're probably going to gain weight, so not very good towards your goal. And I don't really like to think in terms of good and bad. It's really beneficial, not beneficial, because I don't like to make the judgments, so it's kind of a lapse in vocabulary right there. And the second question is, what wouldn't happen if you did? So the wouldn't happen if you're trying to say, what wouldn't happen if I did eat the jelly donut? Well, I would maintain my diet and I would probably lose weight getting fitter. What would happen if you didn't? So then these kind of questions start really making you think about all the different impacts. And then the last one is, what wouldn't happen if you didn't? So I'll repeat those. What would happen if you did? What wouldn't happen if you did? What would happen if you didn't? And what wouldn't happen if you didn't? Now these questions may seem a little bit funky, but they really kind of twist the mind into thinking about all the repercussions or benefits. So like, what wouldn't happen if I didn't? If I didn't lose weight and get healthy, I might not be there for my kids in the future. And that's a really powerful emotion for me because I really want to be there for my kids. So this can really help find those motivations to change consciously, and then we can program the subconscious after that. And the last one I want to kind of talk about today is reframing, where we can, once we kind of know where we're having troubles, start thinking about ways to change it. Let's say you've identified the feeling, for example. Let's say you're up on stage getting ready to speak in front of 1,000 people and you have butterflies in your stomach. The difference between fear, anxiety, versus excitement, happiness, is the same thing, right? Our heart rate goes up, we start perspiring, we have the tightness in our tummies, the butterflies, as some people call it. They're the same body sensation. The only difference is where we're directing our energy. Is it towards the negative, the not useful? I'm afraid, I'm fearful, I'm anxious, versus the positive, I'm excited, I'm happy, this is incredible. So sometimes simply just changing the vocabulary, reframing how you're describing it, is all the difference in the world. Sometimes when we're talking about, let's say, something fearful, if it's an object or a person or an event, change the color, change the sound, change how close it is to you, put it really far off into the distance, wrap it in something, wrap yourself in something for protection. So think of it like you're in a holodeck on Star Trek. You can change anything you want. You can make it silly or happy or funny or hot cold, change everything about the movie that you're seeing in your head. And this can really allow your mind and body to kind of change how it feels about that thing. And it's really kind of neat experiment. When we have that negative thought, it'll say negative self-talk, I'm not good enough. Well, who's actually saying that? By whose standards? Take that voice and change it, put it through a voice machine and change it to something silly, or send it way off in the distance and now it's just a whisper. So we can really kind of play with all of our senses and our imagination to help us get through those things. And when those thoughts do come up, it's okay. Like, we're all going to have those negative, unhelpful events in our lives. So just take comfort in the fact that when those do happen, we have the ability to affect them in a positive way and even turn it into our advantage, because everything can have a repurposed advantage to it. So it's kind of neat. I hope this helps a little bit. I know I went a little bit fast and covered a lot of info. If you have questions, put it in the comments. I'd love to answer them. Otherwise, if you're wanting a little bit of help around this, I talked about some of the tools, but there's a lot more tools out there to help you. And if you'd like to work one-on-one, feel free to send me a message. Otherwise, have a wonderful day.